So today I'm with Ohm, and Ohm attends Brown University currently. I guess to start off, um, do you mind explaining like some activities that you did in high school that like you think made you stand out, and what about those activities do you think made you stand out?
Yeah, sure. I would say I focused mostly on doing research, uh, primarily for within like biological or within like research oriented around biology in general or health. In school, I joined several clubs that are oriented around health, and it promoted hygiene and other practices around campus, as well as trying to implement practices in the community. But for the most part, I feel like my most important activity was actually working within a research lab at UConn,
Oh,
which
nice.
I worked, yeah, with the graduate professors. And yeah, I would say that reaching out to colleges around your area and seeing what kind of labs or what kind of opportunities might be open is a great start to look at what you could do for not just building your college application, but also just in general expanding your interests.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know Brown has sort of of an open curriculum. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that and your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. So the open curriculum is actually a really nice experience in which you're allowed to take essentially any class. You don't have any general major requirements apart from your major, which is great. So you're not really necessarily restricted by any core requirements. So you're not really you're not necessarily forced to take a class in a discipline you don't want to.
Yeah,
And I would say that the open curriculum is also great in that it allows you to, for example, at the start of semester, which I'm actually going through right now, we have this thing called shopping period, in which you can attend any class you want and sit in for up to 3 weeks, and the professor will accommodate and also allow you to work on any assignments, and you're allowed to really see if you like the class or not. Yeah.
that's really cool. Um, and as for like letters of recommendation and building bonds with your teachers, like what tips do you have like when going about that and reaching out to them?
Yeah, sure. So I would say the best time to reach out for your teachers for letters of recommendation would probably be at the end of junior year, because that will give them the most time to actually prepare and write extensively about their experience and also about the qualities that you have and their experiences with you in general. I would say don't try to force a connection with your teachers. If you really like them, you're going to probably talk to them a lot, and they'll probably get to know you as well. Same thing actually in college as well. I'm in several different large lecture classes, but I feel like I've been able to connect more with professors that are more related to the topics I'm interested in. For example, with public health,
Yeah,
last semester I took a class on American healthcare, and so I reached out to a professor about like different opportunities and projects in the school, and also just to see about events and such.
yeah, that's really cool. I actually was gonna ask about professors and like how like accessible you think they are, especially with um, like how large your some of your classes might be, like how accessible they may be with also connecting you with any other opportunities within their field.
Yeah. So I feel Brown is really good because the professors are really oriented around giving the students the most that they can about over their learning experience here. And so I feel like professors here are more accommodating, and so they have quite a bunch of research and open TA hours as well as just office hours in general, which I feel like are the best times to just reach out to them. I would say I can't really exactly speak to the experience in other colleges, but I would say office hours in general would be the most universal way of getting to know your professor and also just seeing what they're up to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Um, and Going back to like the activity section, how would you say you made the most of your summers?
Yeah. Within summers, I mostly engaged with the research programs that I went through. And I would say, other than that, I would say just spend time working on personal goals, anything that you feel personally empowered to do. Don't necessarily try to force anything. Just try to make the most out of what you want to do. And I would say just be reflective as well, because summer is a great time to reflect and also reorient your goals and schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of financial aid, I guess you can't speak to other colleges, but how do you think it is like at Brown specifically?
Well, my experience here has been pretty diverse. I've been able to connect with a range of students from different financial backgrounds. Brown is pretty interesting in that there are a lot of students who come from the upper class and so not necessarily receive much financial aid.
Yeah.
But I would say that there's a pretty diverse range of people here. Yeah.
And you think that that there's a good support system when it comes to that? And
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say, just give me an example. We have a program called BCMS, in which textbooks and other classroom materials are paid for, so they don't necessarily charge extra for that. And those are for the low-income students here. So yeah.
That's great. And what tips do you have when coming to like more from the perspective of like your personal essay and any supplements you had to write for Brown or other schools?
Yeah, so honestly, the personal statement process is really a self-discovery process. It sounds very cliche, but you do have to go through a lot of reflection. That's really the most part of what it is. Reflecting on yourself, reflecting on important experiences, important morals, ideas, whatever you want to have, because those are the things that are probably going to get you more interest in the eyes of college admissions officers.
Yeah.
They reflect authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that my personal statement process was actually kind of a bit of it took multiple attempts for me to get like a working personal statement draft ready, and then I went through several ideas after that as well. So don't worry about if your first draft or whatever is probably not the best idea, or even just spilling words on paper. It's just good to get your ideas out. Yeah, I would say something like that.
Yeah. And so when I actually like emailed Mr. Hughes asking to like interview like a college scholar, he said that your journey specifically throughout high school is pretty smooth, as he described it. So what do you think about your like college application process was smooth, and if you had to maybe describe like a roadmap of what you did, maybe not so much freshman year, but I guess sophomore year, junior year, and during the application process itself to set yourself up for a successful application?
Well, I will say that sophomore and junior years are great times to explore opportunities, as well as other extracurriculars that are available in your school as well as outside of your school. But I will say that for the most part, I would say the college search really starts for the most part in junior year. That's when you should probably begin to like at least look at colleges, or begin considering colleges in your area, or what sort of like preferences you might have. I wouldn't say worry about it too much within that time frame, because you do have a lot of time to look at colleges, tour them, as well as just change your mind about them. Actually, my first choice was actually Johns Hopkins at first in junior year, but as I researched more and looked into schools more, and I talked to advisor, I would say that Brown really came up on top, and it was actually pretty late into the process. I would say summer right before senior year, I actually started preferring Brown over all my other choices. For the most part, I would say don't worry about doing everything all at once. Take it slow. Don't worry about the process as much as your own personal development.
Yeah, that's great. And when you did kind of dive deeper into that college search, like towards beginning or like middle end of junior year, like what do you think you did that helped you organize your like thoughts, and what you think made you shift your mind, I guess, from Hopkins to Brown as you did more research?
Yeah, so I kept a running document of all my different colleges I had looked at, or even glanced at their website and whatever. And I made a bunch of notes, really based on just sort of thoughts I had, different like preferences and things I noticed that were quirky and that I really liked about each college. And I just kept on expanding the list from there, and then just looking at them throughout the weeks. Yeah.
Um, and I guess this is a more narrow question, but in the Common App, like, how do you think, did you like use the additional comments section? And if you did, what do you think it would be useful for?
I don't really have personal experience with the additional comment section. I did ask my advisor about this, but there's not really anything I need to add to that section. I don't think it's really anything important, unless it's like an extenuating circumstance or something that's important to your application as a whole. I wouldn't recommend adding an additional supplement or something of the sort, as it probably wouldn't benefit your application.
Okay. And since Brown is like really competitive and all, obviously it's a great school, so the classes must be really difficult. How difficult do you think it is, or it was for you this like year so far, to like maintain a good GPA and maintain a good stance in your classes, so that you're in a good place to apply, you said, like for masters in the future?
Yeah, so for the most part, I feel like the hardest part is actually adjusting to the lifestyle, because you are away from home. I would say that developing a schedule really helped me get through things, as well as being proactive about assignments and such, because when you're in college, you can choose to skip classes and do whatever you want. It's your life, really. So being able to stay on top of things and also connecting with my friends would probably be the best habits I developed to like maintain good study habits, as well as just in general enjoy the most out of my experience so far.
That's great. And I guess like as a follow-up question, like how do you think you were able to, make those friends so quickly in your first year, and what other things do you think helped you transition?
Yeah. So I actually had made a couple of friends throughout just connecting online prior to going on to campus. But I will say that clubs, as well as communities centered around identity, are probably great opportunities as well for you to connect with other students and make friends quickly. I will say that probably your first few classes in college, for the most part, they are going to be pretty big. So making friends just based on that might be a bit difficult, but I would say that definitely study groups would help to make friends as well.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your advice. It's really helpful.
Of course.